So today I'm introducing you to the wonderful Leah Williamson. Thanks so much, Leah, for being part of the summit.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Excellent. Leah, can you just share with everybody a little bit about you, what you do, and what you're bringing to the summit?
Yeah, so I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner at Nourishing Conversations. And basically what that is I perform functional tests on the body with nutritional therapy. So we look at the diet and take a deep dive into that. So I specialize in low carb, paleo, keto style diets and helping you to get the most out of them. Because a lot of times people feel like they're doing the most perfect ketogenic diet based on what the internet has told them, but they're not getting the success that they expect that other people might have had. And when I see these clients and I help them kind of go through the diet and have a look and see, or maybe there's a lot of artificial sweeteners in here that you didn't realize that aren't contributing to your health, and basically help kind of bring that real food motion, like almost a perfect merging of paleo and real food into the ketogenic and low carb diet. And through that, clients have a really great success. And so that's a little bit about what I do. And I'm so passionate about the low carb world and paleo world because it really helped me. I struggled with a lot of kind of health issues, digestive, tired, fatigue. I've got Hashimotos, and finding a real food diet actually really worked well for me and gave me the energy and vibrancy to kind of, raise my children and run around and do all the things that I do in mum life. So that's why I really am passionate about helping others, because I know how well it can work when it's done in the right way for that person.
Yeah, so, fascinating. Yeah. It sounds like, there's such an individual variation that I don't think a lot of people realize, especially when they're new to coming into it. And it's definitely one of the messages, this summit is going to get across, that, there is no one size fits all, and there is, you do have to play around with it. But what would be some of the, some of the common things you see around people trying a ketogenic diet and not getting the results that they want?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is they've come from a low-fat diet, and then all of a sudden they're trying to put all these lovely fats back into their body, and the body just kind of goes, oh, hang on, what are you doing to me? I don't know how to process this, and, that kind of thing. And so sometimes that can lead to digestive issues like diarrhea or constipation. It can also lead to kind of discomfort in the body, those kind of things. It can also make your blood sugar dysregulated as well, because it's putting that stress on the body. And so a lot of people can't understand why they can't get into keto, and they're eating all these great fats. So with the way that I approach it is I like them to kind of transition into these fats without loading up the body too much. And you might need to emulsify fats a little bit, which basically means just mixing your fat with an acid. So making a salad dressing that contains like olive oil with apple cider vinegar, and whisking that together and having that on your salads for a while until the body can like really absorb and start taking in all those beautiful fats that you're having and digesting them properly. And that's when you'll start feeling that health. So that's just one common thing that I see with a lot of people.
Fantastic. So what is a little bit about your summit presentation?
Yeah, so I'm talking about low carb in the family, and just really easy, achievable ways that you can help the family kind of embrace the lifestyle. Because I hear from a lot of women who are trying to cook meals for like 10 different meals for everybody in the family, and it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable, is it? If you're trying to rush around all day, making all different meals and serving things up like a mini restaurant, because you're not a mini restaurant. So so basically, I'm just giving some really practical tips on like cooking once and modifying, making adjustments for some of the other people in the family. And we know the easy one is, say, rice. If you come from a rice-heavy family, it could be really hard to transition the children over straight away into eating cauliflower rice. Like, I know my children who are 6 and 9 are just like, you're giving me this rice and now you're giving me a vegetable. I can taste the difference. So, just using some different ways to kind of introduce the cauliflower to them. And then my husband, he might still like a bit of rice, but he halves it with some cauliflower, so he's getting the good veggies in there. And then I have the cauliflower. So I haven't made 10 different meals. We're still all having the same base meal, but I'm having mine on the cauliflower. Husband's having his on the cauliflower and rice, and the kids are kind of picking and trying a little bit of, what it is, until we can all kind of get into the mode of this is the new rice in the family.
I guess it can be challenging too, depending on how long and how old your kids are. And, if you've got teenagers in the house that have been used to pasta every night, and then you're going to come in one day and go, right, no more pasta, where it's fathead dough, and, they're going to just go, yeah, right, not going to happen. So I think, you do have to, bring things in slowly and be really patient with your family, and obviously, make sure you work on yourself. And those sort of tricks are fantastic, and like with my kids, so they've got with the cauliflower rice, there's kind of a 70-30, so 70%, sounds like I've got heaps of kids, but with my 5,
you do have
I suppose I do really. Still freaks me out, but anyway, so there's 3 of them that will eat it, and 2 just don't want to have a bar. So they just don't have any, they'll just have the main meal on their plate and they're happy with that. So there's definitely things you got to play around with, but you've got to be patient. That's one of the biggest things I see, because they're doing their best, you're doing your best, but it's not going to change overnight.
Yeah, and I think children too are real creatures of habit. So if you've always been eating something the one way, to just come and change it totally on them, I think that's just like a recipe for disaster, especially if it's at dinner time and you've just come in from work and you're putting dinner on the table and you're like, here, kids, here's something you've never tried before. I mean, that's a losing battle, right? So you've got to pick and choose your timing for when you do it. And I'm a big believer in transition. It might take you a good year to get them to eat a particular vegetable, but at least you're still putting it out there and you're getting them to try it, and they'll eventually come around. And if you remember back to when you were a child, I mean, like, I did not like mushrooms and I did not like avocado when I was a child, but I have to say they're probably my 2 favorite foods now as an adult. So
yeah, it does. What's your view on the the vegetables with kids? I mean, it is a struggle sometimes to get them to eat their veggies, and protein's really important, as we know. My kids will generally love some form of protein, and I think we've got to take the pressure off ourselves a little bit in terms of getting them to try different things. So what's your take on that? I mean, is there some in your view that are non-negotiable?
I don't know. I think the protein, like you said, is kind of non-negotiable with me. Like I'm always like, so long as you eat your meat or whatever the protein is, the fish, chicken, whatever, as long as you've eaten that, then I'm a little bit more relaxed on the vegetables. Mine are really fussy when it comes to vegetables. So like they only eat carrot and cucumber, and then there's a third vegetable that if I've cooked some cauliflower or broccoli or something green, they have to try it. So long as they try it, I'm happy. And so long as they've eaten the rest of the vegetables that I know they like, I figure they'll come around eventually. Like, it's not going to be forever. It's kind of like, when you have a baby and that doesn't sleep, children eventually sleep, right? As an adult, you're sleeping. Well, mine sleep good now. Win some battles.
Then they become teenagers and they stay awake all night on social media and on their phones, and you're like,
yeah. But eventually they'll. I think kids will, come round. I just feel like so long as they're eating some kind of vegetable, I'm happy with that. And some of the tips I like to suggest is, when you're introducing a new vegetable, do it at that right moment. Like, don't do it, at that 6 o'clock peak stress time while you're trying to get dinner on the table. It's not going to be a battle that you're going to win. Maybe introduce it at lunchtime on a weekend when you are sitting around the table and it is a little bit more relaxed. Talking to them about the vegetable, where it came from, what kind of vegetable it is, why it's so good for them. How I like to talk to kids in terms of energy. So like, this vegetable will give you the energy to get up and run around with your friends at lunchtime. Those type of things. So, and then also like, a lot of kids like mash. So mashing a new vegetable up into the mash, or, blending it together into the bolognese sauce, so that are actually getting vegetables in other indirect ways. And if you feed them a vegetable that they like with one they haven't tried before, they're more likely to like it because they like the taste of the other one. So just kind of little psychological tips you can use with them.
Yeah, fantastic. Great tips. So I know you've been in the paleo low carb world for quite some time now, and you've also got a great podcast which many people know about called Low Carb Conversations. I'm going to put a link below to that to Leah. If you haven't come across that, well, I don't know where you've been, but no, I'm joking. It's a fantastic podcast. Leah interviews lots of amazing people in the low carb space. But what's your view, having been in this now, it's about 10 years?
Yeah, it's about 10 years.
Yeah, amazing. So what's your view on whether low carb is sustainable or not?
Well, obviously I've stuck with it for 10 years, so it's somewhat sustainable. I guess, like, you know, over the time I've evolved and changed, and I've seen different dietary movements come up and go down. And the number one thing for me in making it sustainable is always just choosing nutrient-dense real food. So real food, nothing from a packet. And I think that's the way, well, and I'm not saying nothing from a packet, but, you know, trying to eat as much fresh fruit and vegetables and fresh meats and good healthy fats as possible, and minimizing the packaged food and eating clean ingredients if you are eating the packaged food. I think if you stick to that kind of rule of thumb, you can make it sustainable long term. I think if you're just always trying to jump in with like, I know I'm not knocking ketogenic diet or low carb because I live in this world as well, but if you're always trying to be keto all the time, always trying to be low carb all the time, it's putting this unnecessary pressure on yourself. But if you're choosing nutrient dense, satiating foods that are going to keep you fuller longer, they're naturally low carb anyway. And that's, I think, how you can make it sustainable long term.
Yeah, true. So the other just quick question on that is because a lot of people say to me, you know, the perception of eating real food is expensive. And I, you know, of course, we've both got families, and we have to be clever around doing that, you know, in terms of the cost of things. What's your view on the organic? Do you think that we always need to buy organic, or is it, you know, because I see people sometimes thinking that that's the real approach. They don't even bother. They're like, oh, it's too expensive. I can't even go down there. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I believe you've got to do the best that you can do with what you have. So if you have a budget that only allows you to go to Woolworths and buy the best from Woolworths, then, I mean, that's still better than going to McDonald's every night, right?
Yeah.
So you got to put that in perspective. Me personally, we actually get our fruit and vegetable from a spray-free fruit and vegetable company, which is organic. It's organic practices, grown with organic practices, but just using spray-free as the label. These are smaller farms that can't afford the organic certification, but are still doing the right thing, which actually in turn makes the fruit and veg prices a lot cheaper, I guess, in some ways, because you're getting them direct from the farmers. There's not, you know, and there's no kind of people in the middle. There's no cold storage in the middle. There's, you know, no transport methods in the local area. So that works really well for us, and we're just eating seasonally. So even if you are just shopping at, you know, the big supermarket chains, if you eat seasonally, if you find out what is in season in your area at particular times and choose those fruit and vegetables, they're going to be much more, they're going to be inexpensive. So like say now in Queensland here at the moment, it's cauliflower season. So cauliflower prices have come right down. 2 months ago, they were like $12 a cauliflower, you know, and at the moment they're down to about $5 a cauliflower. And I'm talking organic prices as well. So if I was to buy my cauliflower now, it's in season, it's going to be less expensive. It hasn't sat in cold storage for a long time. That's going to be the one. But if I had bought it 2 months ago, it probably would have been the end of the season, or it was coming in from somewhere else. It's got the transport miles on it, all those kind of things. So it's going to be more expensive. And then the last tip kind of around that I want to just mention is like going to the EWA, the Environmental Working Group, I think it is, and seeing what's on the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. And they're the ones that, so like the Dirty Dozen, if you can try and avoid those and get those organic or spray-free if you can. And then the Clean 15, they're the ones, you know, that you can just, you know, it's not so bad to buy at the supermarket. That's probably a good way to look at that as well.
Yeah, great. And interesting too, because I think there's been a bit of a fear with COVID-19 of people buying fresh fruit and veggies. And I'm like you know, I do what's within my budget. I certainly don't buy everything organic. I mean, with a family of 7, I mean, I just can't afford it. But I do try and buy fresh. And what I will always do is wash my fruit and veggies in water and apple cider vinegar before we consume them. And, you know, hopefully, you know, I think that gets certainly a lot of the residue off, and a lot of the, you know, if someone's coughed and then picked up that bit of, you know, it's washed that away. So my feeling is, don't be afraid of buying fresh fruit and veggies now, you know, in this pandemic, because I think as long as you know, do wash them well before you eat them, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. And I think obviously to keep your immune system in check, you need fresh fruit and veggies.
Yeah.
And if you're avoiding them and just eating canned stuff, you're not going to get the nutrients in that canned food like you're going to get from a fresh piece of, you know, fruit or veggie. So, so don't be afraid. Wash it, as you say. I think it's going to be better for your health long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Thank you so much for your time today, and so honoured that you're part of the summit. It's shaping up to be amazing. So, you know, thanks so much, Leah.
Thank you. And I just love what you're doing with the summit, and I'm so excited to be part of it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.